So I'm curious to know your opinions on like Kourtney and like the whole Kourtney Travis like of it all.
So I like Courtney. I think that that's a very unpopular opinion from both what I've seen on TikTok and just kind of like in general. But I'm kind of team Courtney, especially in this whole like Dolce and Gabbana like drama and whatever is unfolding between the two sisters.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of think that I'm on Courtney's side, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts and like how you're feeling about her too.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I know,
Um,
because I've got a theory.
oh, so I like I said, I really liked Kourtney, like
Mhm.
in like my older watches.
Yeah.
Like I think Chloe and Kourtney were my favorites, hands
Mm.
down.
Yeah.
I find this season and I guess like the seasons that she's with Travis is just like it's just a lot. Like the way that she like changes her complete aesthetic to
Mm.
kind of match whoever it is that she's dating. Like since she's been dating Travis, she's gone like completely basically like goth and like rocker. Um
Mhm.
and also like their excessive PDA is just like a lot.
Yeah.
It's not as bad, I don't think, in the episodes that you've seen, but
No.
like in all of the other episodes, like there's one scene where they went to like look at a house and like the
Okay.
realtor is there, and then like to get a feel for the house they like sit on the couches, and then they just like she just like straddles him and they just start like making out, and like the realtor's just there. Like
Nice and
or like
awkward.
or like they'll be at like a family event and they're just like basically just like sticking their tongues down each other's throats, and like their
Right.
children are just like
Cool. Awesome. This is so fun. Love being at mom and dad's house.
yeah, so like I just find like, and like she just keeps saying like, oh, it's just because I'm so in love and like people just don't know
Yeah.
what this type of love is, and it's like, no,
Hmm.
I feel like that's just kind of like disrespectful, like that's so
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's
So
fair.
yeah, like
I
that is
definitely
weird.
haven't seen that as much. Like I feel like the only version of that you've really seen so far in the season that I've watched is they obviously do like the photo shoot for her new like little
Lemmy or whatever.
health
Yeah.
gummies. Yeah, let me matcha, let me chill. Um yeah, so that's kind of like the main PDA that I've seen. If I think if I had seen that, I would also be kind of annoyed because I think that's gross and I just don't think it's appropriate to
it
like
yeah,
do in front of other people.
it was the
Um,
whole it was like it was a very big parts of the storyline, like the
yeah,
I think like season one, season two, like everyone just kind of like says like that's just like what they expect of them.
interesting.
And it's just so strange, but yeah, like it kind of gives vibes of like when you're like younger, you like take on the
Right.
attributes of like your boyfriend.
Right.
So I thought like the funny part in this like fight with Kim, and I guess
Yeah.
to level set, like if
Mhm.
for those who aren't watching, the big like the main plot line that's happening this entire season in the
Yeah.
Kardashians is essentially that so Kourtney and Travis got married last year in Italy, and Dolce and Gabbana basically were like styled their entire wedding, right? Like everything
Hmm.
was looks from Dolce. Apparently they went back into the archives. They keep saying like the 90s archives as if this is
Right.
a thing that like we
People know
know
about just
and
the
like
oh yeah, of
understand.
course, the
Yes, the
archives.
90s archives, of course. You made them
Yeah.
go back. I don't know. Is it hard to go back to the 90s? Like I don't understand. Like they make, you know.
As a fashion company, are you not often self-referencing yourself and constantly going back to your old
But it
archives?
yeah, like
Like,
it seemed like a very difficult thing to do to go back to the 90s
right,
archives.
right.
And then I guess like a few months later, Dolce and Gabbana reached out to Kim and they asked her to be like the creative director, I think,
Hmm. Yeah.
of one of their new shows, which they've like never done before. So essentially she would have like a big say in like styling it with them.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, which I think Pharrell just did with like Louis Vuitton too. So like I
oh,
guess
no
it's like
way.
a bit of a thing where like sometimes you just get like a creative director to like come in and do like a show or you
Yeah.
know, yeah.
So Kim went and did that, and this like angered Kourtney like to her
Hmm.
core because she felt like she had like ripped off her wedding.
Yeah.
And then like it's just a whole thing that drags out through like multiple episodes.
Episodes, like all of the episodes.
Yeah, but anyway, so like the thing with that is just like I thought it was funny that like Courtney's like, oh, it's just like about identity. Like I feel like Dolce
Hmm.
Gabbana is like my thing, and like you're taking my
Hmm.
identity. So I just kind of thought that was like kind of rich, considering she's like
Right.
taken on the entire identity of like her husband now.
Right. Oh, that's fair. That's interesting. So I have like a couple things to say. So
Okay, let's break it down.
Let's break it down. So I think we'll go to kind of like the Kourtney side of it. So I do think I understand like what Kourtney is saying, where she's like basically like complaining that Kim only sees this opportunity as like an amazing like paycheck and an amazing like exposure for Kim, right? Like it's always part about Kim's like rebrand and like her branding, who she's associating with. Like she obviously did this huge partnership with Balenciaga, yeah. And now she's doing it with like Dolce and Gabbana, so she's kind of like really wanting to like align herself with these like fashion icons, like these like massive like brands, and like how that kind of like propels herself forward. So obviously there is a certain level of like Kim is out for Kim, right? Like Kim is
Yeah.
always taking care of number one. Number one for Kim is Kim. And I think for the family, in a lot of the ways, Kim is also number one. And I
Yeah.
think that that's kind of like, even for like at the birthday party of like Kim's birthday party in that season, she turns like 42 or whatever. Chris calls Kim like the new matriarch of the family.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, your eldest daughter is actually sitting at this table. And I guess it's interesting that she doesn't get to be the matriarch of the family or the next matriarch of the family because her earning potential isn't the same as Kim's earning potential. And like it kind of is interesting that your association with like what a head of a family is based on kind of like their wealth and their ability to acquire wealth over like their ability to like take care of a family and oversee a family's like well-being, which is kind
For
of what I would
sure.
think an actual like matriarch or patriarch should kind of be doing when you are a head of a family.
Oh yeah.
So
A
there's that.
100%. Like, and that's it. Like that's what Chris Jenner and like these people
Yeah,
like put emphasis on
yeah,
is
above all
basically that.
else.
That is, oh my God, yeah,
Yeah.
that's such an interesting take on that as well. Cause like I did notice that she said that, but like
Yeah,
you're right to think about why she kind of deemed her this.
yeah.
I think there's also just like this tension between the two. And that's what they've said, you know, like there's
Hmm.
clearly just been this tension between the two sisters for
Yeah,
a long time
yeah.
that I feel like this scenario would have popped, like something would have happened for them to
Right,
feel this type of resentment. Um, you're just so detached from this storyline.
right. It's
Like
like such a stupid fight.
like the fact that they are fighting about this is just like
Yeah,
so ridiculous. And like
yeah.
just the like I was looking at it and it's like I'm looking at my wedding. Like I like this is my
Right.
wedding. And it's just
Yeah.
like I liked the whole like I got married in Italy. Like did you stole my wedding country and like I
Yeah.
got this like
Andrea Bocelli,
yeah and
like
you got
whatever.
like
Yeah.
it's
Like,
just like
excuse me, Yolanda Hadid owns Andrea Bocelli, like, or at least she did when she was with David Foster. Like,
like
nobody owns Andrea
it's
Bocelli.
just like the most ridiculous, like
Yeah,
just the things that they
it
fight about are
is.
just like so wild.
Yeah, it is. But at the same time, so this is my second hot take about this is the thing that so the way that Kim kind of like starts to craft this storyline, like in episodes like 2 and 3, is she can, I think she can already tell because it's already played out and she's like doing her confessionals or whatever, so she already is crafting the storyline of I want to be super conscious of how this is going to hurt or impact Kourtney, and I want to be like super on that, and like I really want to really understand, and I want to make sure that I'm being as sensitive as humanly possible while also obviously fully just going ahead with whatever I want to do. And the way that this reminded me of Mr. Tom Sandoval crafting his storyline through his confessionals and then eventually through his actual like words on the show as it was like being filmed about his relationship with Ariana and how they had not been in a good place, they do not have any intimacy, they don't get along, she doesn't respect him, she doesn't think that he's intelligent, like all of these things, like the way that he
Oh
like
my God.
crafted that through his like his confessionals at first, and then he has some scenes with Schwartz to be able to be like, oh man, God, you guys just don't sound like you get along anymore, you guys are roommates basically at this point. And like that's what Kim does when she's like then also talking to like Chloe about it, and she's like, but I was so careful, and I specifically didn't choose the Madonna
Lace.
things and lace, yeah, exactly, because, and like we didn't do black veils, and it's like, why would you have done whatever? Like there's all these like little things that she's done to make it seem like she's fully covered and been super respectful, and like the way that she's obviously selling that to the audience and like prepping us for me being, I'm not the bad guy about this.
That's
I think Miss Ariana, I think Miss Kourtney over here, they're the bad guys in all this.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah,
That
so that's one thing that I would thought about when I was watching
that is
this.
an incredible take.
Oh,
That
thank
like
you.
so so Kim
I'm
is
intrigued
Tom
to see if other
Sandoval.
people feel similarly or not, though, because I don't know.
I mean, when I watched it, I was more on Kim. I was more on Team Kim. But I
Yeah,
think it's also just because like I've now seen like these attributes of like
yeah,
Kourtney that were like
yeah.
starting to feel
You have more
a
context
little bit
in the
annoying.
overall thing
Yeah.
as well. But even like Kim's kind of like decisions to like call like Kourtney like the diva of all divas, and just like certain things that she was saying about her is just like, girl, I don't know.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
too funny.
it was
It was
interesting.
definitely like a curated story. And even like all of the seasons are definitely like having
Yeah.
Kim in like the center. I think
Hmm.
it's more just like the way Chloe, or sorry, not Chloe, Jesus.
There's so many K's.
Like Kourtney right now is really just like like kind of distancing herself like from the
Hmm.
family and like
Yeah.
just kind of like going into her like new family that I guess
Hmm.
like she's talking about.
Yeah.
And it was just such a crazy fight, and I can't believe that this is basically what is fueling the season.
Hmm.
And I do think that the series is starting to lose some steam. I think
Hmm.
people were really excited about it at the beginning,
Mm.
but I was actually reading online, like trying to understand like what other people think about it too, because like I'm not
Hmm.
an avid fan. Like
Yeah.
I think there's also a conversation of just like, do they even need
To do
reality TV
this.
anymore?
Right. Well, I think it's really interesting how like even they're using the show to react to articles about themselves, right? Like this is their forum. This is where they get to like say all of their opinions about what other people have to say about them. So they're always going to like have a storyline because they can just go read an article from like that was just written about them and be like, well, my this is what the article says and this is my response to the article. It's on like honestly I kind of started to think about it as like they could just be a YouTube channel, right? Like
Yeah,
they could just react to like reactions of themselves and like back like have that kind of like back and forth. Like they don't necessarily need to be on Hulu, but I think they're always going to want to be able to like respond to things, and like
yeah,
they can just kind of like self propagate themselves and like yeah, and like yeah, it's exposure for whatever new project they're working on. It's exposed, you know, the chance to get like probably like a sponsorship from like that thing that like Kylie and Kendall had that was like electrocuting them to work out.
oh
Like you know,
yeah,
there's just like the endless amounts of like sponsorship deals that they can get from this TV show. Like I think they're always going to want something like this in their back pocket to be able to continue to like have something be talked about themselves.
true.
And they even I think that that's even why they choose some of the brands that they work with on purpose, right? Like, or the people that they associate with on purpose, right? Like them having continued to associate with Scott Disick despite his like controversies throughout the years of like dating these like excessively younger women, and like the Dolce and Gabbana, like the controversy of Dolce and Gabbana, it like it feeds itself too, because there's all these people talking on TikTok being like, why are the Kardashians aligning themselves with the Dolce and Gabbana when we know how controversial they are? And it's like, but that's what they want, is that they want you talking about why they're partnering with Dolce and Gabbana because that gets them talked about.
Yeah.
And that is just it's an endless loop for them. They understand that that's how like this all works and this is the price that they pay